Greetings to all participants gathered here for the Better Together talk in the city of Jeonju. My name is David Atchoarena. I am the director of the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning. Though I am sorry I cannot join you in person, I am delighted to have the opportunity to talk to you today about the importance of lifelong learning for regional and local development, as well as the positive impact it has on quality of life. I know many of you are lifelong learning practitioners and educators from lifelong learning institutes and centers across the Republic of Korea. Your work is essential in making lifelong learning a reality for people in localities across the country, translating Korea's national vision for lifelong learning into learning programs for which so many benefit. I would like to acknowledge the efforts of World Culture Open, the Presidential Committee for the National Balanced Development of Korea, and the city of Jeonju to make this event happen. As you may know, the Better Together Challenge is taking place during the 2022 Global Emerging Network in Economy Forum, which provides an inspiring context for our gathering here today. Dear participants, this topic is as timely as it is relevant. We know from data provided by the UNESCO Institute of Statistics that 771 million adults in the world lack basic literacy skills, two-thirds of whom are women. When we take into account the many other skills needed to navigate a rapidly changing world, including digital and vocational skills, we can say that a far large number of youth and adults are not sufficiently equipped. Furthermore, the fifth global report on adult learning and education, GREL 5, launched by the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning just 2 months ago, reveals profoundly unequal access to learning opportunities around the world for adults. These worrying trends are advancing against a backdrop of major global challenges which require transformation and a shift from traditional notions of education towards a right to lifelong learning. Interest in lifelong learning, having grown over a period of decades, culminated in Sustainable Development Goal 4 of the UN 2030 Agenda: ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Since that time, lifelong learning has been afforded a more prominent place on policy agendas across most of the world regions. And yet, at the same time, in many countries, a diminishing amount of attention has been paid to adult education. The result is that the ambition of lifelong learning opportunities for all, set in Incheon in 2015, seems to have been lost. Yet, there are new momentum emerging to restore this ambition. In June this year, at the 7th International Conference on Adult Education, Confintia 7 in Morocco, the global community made a commitment with the adoption of the Marrakesh Framework for Action to harness the transformational power of adult learning and education within a lifelong learning perspective. Last week, in New York, the United Nations Transforming Education Summit expressed a new political ambition and sense of solidarity and agreed on specific solutions to transform education and revitalize national and global efforts to achieve SDG 4. Furthermore, the UN Secretary General, in his recent report titled Our Common Agenda, has called for universal entitlement to lifelong learning and reskilling translated into practice through legislation, policy, and effective lifelong learning systems, a call that member states have reaffirmed in the Marrakesh Framework for Action. While the discourse and aspirations of lifelong learning are mostly expressed at global and national levels through legal frameworks, policies, and funding, it is at the local level that practical action is taken and actual implementation takes place. A guiding framework to promote lifelong learning at the local level is needed to empower stakeholders to take ownership of a national vision for lifelong learning and contextualize it in and for their communities. Learning cities provide an excellent example of the potential and role of the local level and of local actors to promote lifelong learning as essential ingredient to foster an environment that is socially just, ecologically sustainable, economically productive, politically democratic, and culturally vibrant. The Learning City approach proves to be a very effective strategy to engage citizens, mobilize a diversity of development sectors, institutions, and community groups to provide learning opportunities to all, while making the city a better and more sustainable place to live. Learning cities link global goals to local communities and activate transformation from the bottom up. We have seen in recent years a significant number of Korean cities adopting the Learning City approach. Their example has been inspiring cities in other parts of the world. Today, Korean cities comprise the largest national grouping of city members of the UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities. Among the 217 cities of the network, 50 are located in Korea. Just last year, the network's flagship event, the International Conference on Learning Cities, was held here in Korea in the Learning City of Yeonsu. We are fortunate to count the city of Jeonju with its impressive number of libraries, organizations, and clubs providing local people with lifelong learning opportunities as a UNESCO GNLC member city. Korea's experience shows the way in coordinating lifelong learning across multiple levels. With lifelong learning enshrined in the national constitution and national and regional authorities established for its implementation across all parts of the country, Korean learning cities contribute to make lifelong learning a reality for their inhabitants. However, this is not a one-way process. In addition to contributing to and benefiting from the global network of learning cities, Korean cities also promote solidarity and cooperation at the regional level with the recent establishment of the Alliance for Asia-Pacific Learning Cities, a platform for regional collaboration led by Korean cities and linked to the global network of learning cities. The impact of a localized approach to lifelong learning is not only felt within the city. Increasingly, we are witnessing a shift supported by the UNESCO GNLC towards the development of learning territories. The learning territory includes a broader scope, bringing together urban, peri-urban, and rural areas. Hence, a learning territory may include one or several cities working with surrounding areas to foster a balanced regional development. Various examples of this approach can be identified in different parts of the world. A successful example for extending the Learning City initiative to the wider region can be found in the city of Swansea in the UK. In Egypt, the city of Ginza provides learning opportunities both in urban and rural areas, including remote areas, through cooperation with the regional governorate as well as with NGOs and associations. In France, a learning territory has been built across an area known as the Pays de Vannes in the region of Brittany. The Pays de Vannes comprises 59 independent municipalities covering rural, urban, coastal, and remote areas. Forming together a learning territory, these municipalities have been able to boost lifelong learning provision and engage in international exchanges with other learning territories. Such examples reveal the benefits of building learning territories for balanced regional development, but it is vital that the promotion of lifelong learning at the local level also serves local people. Local government, as the closest level of government to the people, is uniquely placed to lead multi-stakeholder initiatives to meet people's needs. While lifelong learning should be promoted with a sense of equality of opportunity for all people, achieving this goal requires that people can actually access learning opportunities equally. There is therefore a need to target, in particular, vulnerable populations given their urgent circumstances and pronounced learning needs. Such targeted approach to supporting vulnerable groups and reducing inequalities must involve integrating education responses with other services, such as health, social and employment services at the local level. The experience of many learning cities during the COVID-19 pandemic has proven that such targeted and integrated approach can be a resourceful, pragmatic and effective way for localities to address inequalities and enhance people's quality of life with particular attention to the most vulnerable. One inspiring idea which came to the fore during the pandemic is the 15-minute initiative. Championed by the city of Milan, but as well as other cities. This refers to a guarantee that key public services can be reached by all local people within 15 minutes of leaving their homes. As this applies to every part of the city, including deprived and remote ones, where local services are often insufficient, the initiative facilitates equal access to services like education, health and social support. In Espoo, Finland, during the pandemic, digital services and digital skills training were provided for vulnerable families, while social workers in interdisciplinary teams maintain regular contact with vulnerable pupils. In Sao Paulo, Brazil, a school meal program was put in place by the Municipal Department for Education to ensure that vulnerable children and families had access to food items and hygiene supplies during the pandemic. The initiative specifically targeted those living below the poverty line and children with special needs. These experiences demonstrate that learning cities have the capacity to protect vulnerable groups and improve their quality of life, combining lifelong learning with other forms of support, with special attention to disadvantaged groups. To conclude, I would like to stress 3 points. First, while progressing towards a right to lifelong learning starts with international agreements and national policies, laws and funding, its actual realization requires spatial understanding, a sense of how lifelong learning opportunities are distributed and coordinated across cities, regions and other territories. And local stakeholders require recognition as key agents of transformation for lifelong learning. Secondly, achieving social justice requires, in addition to universal access to lifelong learning opportunities, a targeted approach to support vulnerable groups. Integrating education services with other public services is, in that context, essential. Thirdly, transforming education so that it becomes available to all throughout life is not only about institutions, policies and resources. It is also, and it is first, about people. And we cannot underestimate the vital role played by educators and practitioners. Thank you once again for this kind invitation to the Better Together talk. It has been a real pleasure to speak to you today, and I wish you an insightful and highly successful event. Thank you.